Let's look at some of the fruits in God's creation. Here's a grapefruit. As you can see, the outer skin has pores of oil to protect it from parrots and insects. Very unusual to see a grapefruit that has been eaten by insects. Now, we can prove that this is oil in the skin by squeezing the grapefruit rind into a candle flame and seeing the oil burn. It's also very well protected with a good deal of cellulose fiber between the rind and the sweet juice. It's grown in hot countries, and here's a great deal of protection. Now this changes color when it's ripe. This signals to the monkey or to us that the fruit is ripe and the seeds are ready at the same time to produce more grapefruit trees. Here's a very interesting fruit, the avocado. This doesn't change color when it's ripe. It's sometimes hard to tell whether an avocado is ripe or not. Actually, this does not ripen on the tree. It must be picked or it must fall before it begins to ripen. So that means you can have avocados all year. You can't have oranges all year, but avocados, yes. You can harvest them any time of the year, and in a few days they're ripe and ready to eat. Here's another interesting fruit, the tomato. It changes color when it's ripened to signal that the seeds are ready for sowing and signal to us that the fruit is ready for eating. Very little energy is put into the stem of the plant. All the energy is putting into producing the tomato and the seeds. Now here's something else. More than a pound of grapes from only one bunch. As you can see here, I'm holding them, only one bunch. And see how small the stem is. It will hold the grapes, but a cherry has a stem for only one cherry. And here's one stem holding up maybe even more than 2 pounds of grapes held up by one stem. The grapes are very often mentioned in the Bible. Very little energy is put into the roots or the stalk or the branches or the leaves. All the energy is put into the grapes for our good and our blessing. God is a loving God. We cannot see and understand all his love in creation. We must look to Christ for that. But we can see some of his kindness in creation. Now here's another very interesting leaf, the holly leaf. Well waxed and polished. Photosynthesis doesn't produce wax, it produces glucose. And a great deal of energy goes into changing this glucose into wax and forming carefully formed leaves. A very slow-growing plant, very well protected, extremely strong wood of the stems. However, these berries are poisonous. 20 of these berries are enough to kill a child. A different engineering in God's creation. Cherry. When this cherry turns color, it signals to the birds it's small and about the right size for a bird to take away and eat. When this cherry is ripe, it signals to the birds that are ready for eating because something very important has happened inside. The seed is ready for sowing. Now, a cherry tree puts a lot of energy into a very strong trunk. There are many chemicals in the trunk to make the wood hard, resistant to insects and mold and fungus. A great deal of energy goes into the making of a cherry tree. And this seed now is ready to be taken and sown in other places. You see, God doesn't want cherry trees just to grow as they drop under the cherry tree. They'll be in the shade. They'll have much better chance of survival in different places and for different people. Here's another fruit, blueberry. Also changes color when it's ready to be eaten, changes from green to a very dark blue, and about the right size for a bird to carry away and spread the seeds to other places for our good and our blessing. Here's another very interesting fruit, the watermelon. Very tough rind, very carefully waxed and varnished on the outside. This sits right on the ground, not like a grape or a cherry. This sits right on the ground. And it must be very, very heavy and strong and resistant to damage. Watermelon. Wonderful source of fresh water for someone that doesn't have a ladder. Just walk along, cut it open, and plenty of fresh and purified water for someone that doesn't have a ladder to climb a cherry tree. Wonderful blessing from God. Here's another fruit that turns color when it's ripe to show to us and to the monkey that it's ready for eating. However, very interesting fruit. This has been bred to have no seeds, and it must reproduce by the roots. Roots must grow out and grow another banana plant. In fact, this plant produces bananas only once, and then the whole plant dies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different kinds of fruits. Well, I guess you'd call this a fruit. This would be number 8, poisonous one. 7 different kinds of fruits in God's creation, each one differently created for our good and our blessing. And when we eat these things, we ought to say, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you.